Hello and welcome to the Chew Valley School podcast for Flash Professional CS5. We've got to the point where we've got our Sonic running around the loop now, and we're using the lock tools and the eye tool to hide the different layers, and also using different layers themselves to put the background on and Sonic. I'm going to move on slightly because some of you may not be wanting to do the Sonic idea, but maybe want to do something like Pacman, where you've got a circle, and you've got it yellow and black there, and you have your Pacman. Now in the past you'd have to cut out using a slice tool there just to get the open mouth of the Pacman, and then you have the circle for the closed bit. Luckily for us, the new version of Flash that we've got, CS5, now allows us to change the end angle of oval tools. You'll find that if you go on the internet and actually in our sprite library that Pacman doesn't have some very good animations. You'll find nice ghosts there moving back and forwards, but Pacman is often either too big, or you can't see the outline of him, so it makes it very difficult to tell who he is, or I think it's too slow with the animation there, so when he's trying to chomp and move around it gets very bitty. We're going to go for creating our own one. So we've got a closed Pacman there, and we want to get his mouth moving. So if I use this end angle tool to make that about 255 there, and then draw the same sort of circle, you can see instantly that we've now got one Pacman with an open mouth and one with a closed. Very useful. So we're going to copy this one. Make sure you copy the line on the outside as well, because that's separate to the shape in the middle, because we've drawn a stroke on the outside and a fill in the middle. Let's select them both by dragging them like that, and then cutting them and putting that on a new slide. So insert a keyframe and delete what was currently on there. And let's paste in place our Pacman with the mouth open. Now, if you remember from the last podcast, I used the onion skin tool to work out where to lay it on top. So I've got that there, that's about right, and I've got my previous one and my open mouth. So you can see that he's chomping there now. He's there ready to chomp, and that's working fine. If it's not a complete circle, obviously when you rotate this mouth, the circle won't look the same as that one. So I'm going to keep it like it is for that now. So I've got two frames. If I wanted to then repeat that, I'd have to insert a keyframe, copy the closed mouth into frame 3, then I'd copy the open mouth into frame 4 and 5 and 6, and that would take absolutely ages. So every time that you wanted him to chomp, you'd have to have a new keyframe on the layer. If you saw our Sonic previously, you'll notice that when we imported it, we had the bitmap. So imagine that is the frame of Pacman closed, and then this is the frame of Pacman with his mouth open. And we had those individual ones, and we imported those into our library for Sonic, and then we had a symbol which added them all up together. We're going to do the same sort of thing now with our Pacman, although we're not going to have it in the library yet. So I've got my closed mouth Pacman, and I'm going to go modify, and I'm going to convert it to a symbol because I want it to be not a button, I don't want it to be a button, I want it to be called Pacman, and I want it to be a movie clip because I want it to be a clip inside the movie that will run itself, and it will keep running, so it will keep chomping no matter what happens. Let's try that. Press OK, and it's put a blue line around the outside. If I double click into it, I get my own separate timeline here for the Pacman object, so I can do whatever I like in here and it won't affect anything on the scene at the back. So if I go back to the scene, I've got two keyframes here, which is the one with the mouth open and the mouth closed. Let's take that one, let's cut that off, select that, right click, cut, and put it inside this one, inside the movie clip in there. So I've got one, insert a keyframe, and delete that, and instead paste in place our lovely, I need to skin it again just to make sure it's on top, our lovely closed and open mouth Pacman. So they're now inside this Pacman movie clip. Don't worry if you're lost, you will completely understand this in a second when I go back to scene 1 and delete, right click, clear that keyframe. So I've just got one keyframe which has got our guy on. I'm going to insert a frame to say I want this to last for 41 frames. Let's control and enter and run that. It's going up and down. It is running the movie clip for that whole 41 frames. So I don't have to go keyframe, 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 keyframe. I've said run the movie clip, the one that's inside here, for 41 frames. So what's happening inside this movie clip every one of those 41 frames? Double click. Well, it's going open, close, but it's doing it at a lightningly fast speed. I want it to be a bit slower. I want it to go 1 and then a bit of a wait. So I'm going to drag this keyframe a bit further. 1, and then a bit further, and then I want to open, and then I'm going to insert a frame here to say leave that on a bit. So 1, and then it'll go back to the start. Let's try that. Let's go back to scene 1 and run that. Open, close, open, close, open. We've got it there, so it is running at an appropriate speed. If we think that's still too fast, obviously we can double click into it and we can just drag these frames, select and drag, a bit further. So we can say every 10 frames, so every 0.4 seconds, our Pacman will open and close. Let's have a look, let's try that. Let's go back to scene 1, control and enter. There it is. Okay, so we've got a Pacman that is now opening and closing his mouth. The beauty of this is, if I, instead of just having a frame there, if I keyframe at 41, and then I move him along, or move him upwards actually. I'm going to move him upwards because his face is pointing up there, and I'll start him down here. And then do our classic tween on top of this. We can have him moving upwards and eating. So we've got the movie clip in here, which is going na 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 na, up and down. And we've got, back in scene 1, the classic tween running on top of it, saying, between frame 1 and 41, move that little symbol, move that upwards across the screen. So it's moving our little circle across the screen. But inside the circle it's going, well, every couple of frames I have to do this as well. So let's go back to scene 1. So we've got our Pacman moving up and down the screen. Let's put a bit of background and some sort of object on there as well. So let's get a new layer. Our layer 1 is Pacman. Our layer 2 will be our background. And well done the eagle-eyed among you who have said that I've got to drag that background underneath because it is the bottom layer. So when I put on my rectangle for background, I always use rectangles for the backgrounds rather than just setting the stage color, because then you can set a new background rather than just having the same color all the way through. So it gives you a bit of variety. If you do it at the start and remember it, you don't have to worry about it a bit later. So we've got our background, we've got our Pacman. Let's also get some dots on. So some Pacman dots, D-O-T-S, enter, and let's get some circles which are of reasonable size using the yellow tool. Let's set our stroke a bit big, and oh, we've got our angle still set, so that needs to go back. And here's some Pacman dots. 1, 2, 3 dots there. So Pacman is going to go towards these dots, and he needs to go behind because we want it, as it's eating it, to disappear, just like that. Let's control and enter. Pacman's ready to eat those dots. So we've got our dots on our middle layer here. We've got a Pacman on our top layer, and we're going to move across using the timeline and just say, when he hits this dot here, what do we want to happen? Well, we want this dot to disappear. So on our dots line, we need to insert, right click, a keyframe, because we want something to happen on this frame. You can remember the keyframes from earlier. Now I don't want all the dots to be deleted, so I'm going to go, no, I just want, select off, just this dot here. I'm going to hide our Pacman as well so we can see behind it to make sure that we are deleting the whole of the dot. If you don't, you might not get all of it, might just get half. So let's delete that dot. Did that go? No, it didn't, because I was deleting the Pacman at the time. Let's click it off. There it is. And delete. There you go. Make sure you're taking the yellow and the stroke and the fill color from there. Let's go. So it's there and then it isn't. Let's try and run that now. Control and enter. Hom, gone. Hom, there it is. And let's get the rest of the dots while we're there. So at that point, insert a keyframe. Make sure your Pacman's disappeared. Let's take off just that one. And I've got to get the background, the fill color and the stroke color. And then at a certain point, let's put our Pacman back on. At this point, we've got to take off the final dot as well. So one. Oh, notice I didn't put a keyframe in there. That was a bit silly. Insert a keyframe. And then delete whatever's on the keyframe there. So it's blank. Look, all of the dots have gone. It said, look, it's white from now on. There's going to be nothing on the stage once you've deleted your last dot. Flash will tell you that. That's quite useful. Let's run that again. Gone. So 1, 2, 1. I think because our mouth opens at a certain point that we need to move these dots a bit later. So let's make it about here just to be sure that it's gone, and make that one about here, and that one about here. Let's try that again. There. So it is eating it. As soon as it's eating it, it's gone. Maybe we'll take the last dot a bit further, even further than that. Control and enter. 1, 2. Let's leave it a bit further so that we can see it gone as well. So we want this completely off the screen. Off you go. And let's see what our effect had. Insert the frame a bit further. Control Enter. 1, 2, and he's gone. So it does actually remove all the dots off the screen. That's 3 layers. The dots layer, we've learnt that we can put it in between, and we've got selected things being deleted at different points. So at this point we've got 2 dots, at this point we've got 1, at this point we've got 0. We've learned that the white dot means that there's nothing on the stage from then on. So it's up to you whether you want to insert frames there or not. Some people prefer it to look like that. I think probably leave it like that, so it cuts it so that you can see exactly where your layers end, and it means that you don't want to use the dots layer anymore. The background, we've said, has got to stay on until 56, and it all works. So we've got a movie clip, which is the blue one, there, working inside, and we've got the shape tween working on top of it with a couple of keyframes to get the dots to disappear. Have a go at that.